This is the fictional Mindbender, and I'm going to take a look at the Dark Knight's portrayal of the Joker in terms of a philosophical outlook. Now, coming out of the 2000s, the Dark Knight trilogy is considered one of the best representations of the character of Batman ever made, while at the same time hitting the rare benchmark of being a cultural icon as well, in that it encapsulated a worldview that people and its audiences held at that time. And without question, the big standout character for this was the Joker, as played by Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. Now, why do I think that the philosophical worldview of the Joker in this movie is so interesting? Especially given that, let's be honest, several hundreds of other YouTubers have already done their take on this, or some psychological element as well to the Joker, And this is why. It's that how eerily accurate the Joker's worldview has been as I get older and, just gain more life experience. The Joker comes off as, this sociopath who can kill without mercy and give zero fucks about how he does it and who he does it to, while at the same time on some level being some sort of fucking genius, and that no one can figure him out. And it's interesting to me philosophically because the Joker tells in the movie why this is and why no one is able to figure him out. And that is that the Joker is playing on social expectations of what's acceptable and what's not. As he says to Harvey Dent when he's in the hospital after he just blew him up and blew up his fiance, that he's just a dog, chasing a car basically, and that everyone has their ideas and their plans and what is okay and what's not okay. People get killed on a military mission, or if that's a cop or a game maker, no one cares. But if it happens to those who are perceived innocent or outside of what, the social norms of where that's expected to happen to, then all of a sudden, people lose their shit. Moreover, the Joker hits on the aspect of people's own, or I should rather say society's own self-interest, in that when he has that really great conversation with Batman in the interrogation room, he literally calls out society in front of the cops who he's actually doing this to, and he says, this is what's going to happen to you, where he says that everyone who has cheered him on up until that point, who has basically willingly turned the other way and just kind of allowed Batman to do what he does, only did so because it wasn't happening to them. And as long as it wasn't happening to them and they weren't paying the bill, no one cared, right? No one gave a fuck. But as soon as the Joker changed that dynamic and started introducing casualties, into the mix of that, suddenly that all changed. And suddenly Batman, like the Joker, became a freak. And why was he a freak? Because he was acting outside the rules, and that he was forcing society to see that Batman has always been acting outside the rules. It was just within what they thought was acceptable, right? And that is the brilliance of the philosophy of the Joker, because in its own way, just like the latest portrayal of the Joker by Joaquin Phoenix, it's prophetic, because we see that in a way in how people interact with each other on social media, and how the world acted when COVID came out, and also when the terrorism was a big thing as well, which is when the movies came out and people were dealing with that. And you name it, some element of the Joker's philosophy will be a part of that. And all of it basically revolving around the kernel of self-interest. and that people at their core are just animals of self-interest and will perform to that desire as long as it is acceptable, and they will accept anything else that comes into that as long as it serves that self-interest. And it's a very chilling assessment of humanity. And it's interesting because too, Batman seems to defeat the Joker, and that, well, we beat him, we won, whatever, only then for Joker to reveal that he then had turned Harvey Dent and made him into a super criminal. He's not really a super criminal, but a criminal at least. And that once people find out about that, then, any chance of hope and all that stuff that people believe in is going to be gone. And that in order to protect that, because the Batman and Commissioner Gordon realize that the Joker has him by the balls at this point, they're willing to lie. And Batman makes the sacrifice of becoming that villain that the Joker was making him out to be in the first place. And while yes, this is clearly very heroic and choosing to, live with a target on your back, at the same time, it speaks to the correctness of the Joker's worldview, because it turns out he's right, and that, the Batman and Commissioner Gordon's breaking point was protecting the citizens of the righteousness of Harvey Dent. And that's kind of where the third movie kicks in, where it exposes that, okay? And it exposes not just Gotham for how self-centered it was being, but also Commissioner Gordon and Batman for how self-centered that they were being. That they had chosen to fall in and be corrupted by the lie in order to protect the image that they wanted to see themselves as. Which is why I think it was very appropriate that the ghost of Ra's al Ghul, so to speak, appears to Bruce Wayne when he's in prison and says, yeah, you thought you were all that, but you're just as fucked as everyone else is. So therefore, yeah, the city deserves to die. All of this revolves around the Joker's worldview of humanity and self-centered chaos. And that if you want to change the world, and people believe this today too, by the way, if you want to change the world, you got to flip the table. And there, you see elements of this all throughout, our recent history, from the Me Too movement to BLM to Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You see the whole nine, where people are going to extremes to flip that table and do something that is outside the norm to then effect change. And that's the brilliance of the philosophy of the Joker from The Dark Knight, and how prophetic it was in, I think, in such a profound way. But if you think it's something different, please feel free to comment below. But otherwise, thank you for listening and have a great day.